Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the February 6, 2020 St. Tammany Parish Council meeting. We'll get the meeting started. I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. If y'all would rise, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Would you remain standing? Mr. T.J. Smith.
If you would bow your heads with us in a word of prayer. Father God, we come once again in the humblest way that we know how, asking you, dear God, to hear this our prayer. And we want to begin it, dear God, as usual, by just saying thank you. Thank you for this morning's rising, last night's lying down. Thank you, oh God, for watching over us as we slumbered in our sleep. And early this morning, without any reservation known to us, you reached down with the finger of love and touched our bodies and enabled us to see another day, a day that was not promised to us in the beginning. But because of your grace and because of your mercy, you saw fit to let us walk around your beautiful creation another day. And dear God, we are eternally grateful and just want to say thank you. And we want to take a brief moment, dear God, and ask you to, oh God, looking on the family of our beloved and our deceased sister, Patricia Bristol, oh God. Bless them in the way that you know that they stand in need of, oh God. And we want to thank you, oh God, for the life, oh God, and for the service that she gave to this parish and to this community, oh God. And we pray, oh God, for her soul. And, oh God, when we are through praying and doing the work that you've assigned to our hands to do on this side, we will be so very careful to give you all of the praise, all of the honor, and all of the glory. For it's in Jesus' name we pray and ask it all. Amen.
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 Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Dean? Here. Mr. Fitzgerald? Here. Ms. Casabon? Here. Mr. Davis? Here. Mr. Tanner? Here. Mr. Toledano?
Present.
Mr. Lorino?
Here.
Mr. Canulet?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. O'Brien? Here. Mr. Stefanczyk?
Present.
Mr. Bender?
Here.
Mr. Airy?
Here.
Mr. Smith? You have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we get started, just a couple of announcements for anyone wishing to speak at the meeting on any topic that is on the agenda. Would you please remember to fill out a card, whether you're for or against an issue. Please fill out a card. Public comments at 3 minutes time limit is established for each member of the public wishing to speak for or against an item on the agenda, except appeals. We have a few appeals. Anyone here for the appeals? Speaking time will be 10 minutes per side, a 3-minute rebuttal, and 2-minute conclusion. But once again, please make sure you fill out a card and send it in so that way we can have you come up and speak. We'll go to presentations. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I have my first presentation or proclamation for Employee of the Month. Yes, I've been here almost a month, so I have earned this right to present Employee of the Month. And I happen to know this particular employee. Her name is Cynthia Casnave. She's the longest serving employee in St. Tammany Parish government. She's been with St. Tammany Parish for 42 years. And she serves as an administrative assistant in the Planning and Development Office. And the reason I know Ms. Casnave, I met her 41 years ago. As I was hired as a young man in the St. Tammany Parish Planning Department, which was made up of maybe 3 people at the time. It was located in downtown Covington. And former Director of Planning and Development, Mr. Alan Cartier, hired me as a land use and zoning planner for St. Tammany Parish. And Cynthia, at the time, her name was Cynthia Williams. Cynthia was an administrative assistant with St. Tammany Parish Police Jury at the time. And she served me well. She assisted me during my duties. So when it was time for me to select Employee of the Month, there was only one person that I knew most about anything at this time. So, Cynthia, would you please come forward? I'm going to ask you to hold this while I read. Whereas Cynthia Casnave has served St. Tammany Parish with distinction as Assistant to the Director of Planning and Development since August of 1977, and she is currently the longest-serving employee in parish government, having served 42 consecutive years. And whereas Cynthia has an outgoing, positive, can-do attitude and has an extraordinary ability to organize, effectively communicate, and accomplish every task. And whereas she has an exceptional willingness and desire to help others, she routinely goes above and beyond what's asked of her to assist others in accomplishing their goals. And whereas Cynthia takes great pride in her work and is a valued member of the Planning and Development team. And whereas Cynthia Casnave is an outstanding, lifelong, devoted servant of St. Tammany Parish and performs her duties in an exemplary manner. Now, therefore, I, Michael B. Cooper, Parish President of the great parish of St. Tammany, do hereby recognize the hard work, dedication, and accomplishments of Cynthia Casnave as Employee of the Month, February 2020, and encourage all employees of St. Tammany Parish to thank her for her contributions and commitment to St. Tammany Parish. Congratulations, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Now when you turn around and get a picture. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Mr. President, you sure you had that age right? That Miss Cynthia looks a lot younger than you and I. Thank you, Mike. Well deserved, well deserved. Thank you. Number 2, we have a presentation by Thomas Mitchell, Executive Director, and Gia Baker, Board President, regarding the essential services and program outcomes of Children's Advocacy Center, Hope House.
Hi, thank you so much for having us. Thank you to President Cooper and the council for your time. We will be brief and very respectful of your time. I'm here with Gia Baker, Board President of Children's Advocacy Center, Hope House. First off, condolences for the late Pat Brister. She was one of the founders of our cause, so we definitely wish her and her family and her friends and colleagues prayers during this time. Children's Advocacy Center Hope House is a 501c3 nonprofit organization serving all of St. Tammany Parish. We are the only licensed organization to collect forensic evidence related to child abuse investigations. It is actually state law. Many people don't know we are within the Children's Code as a mandate for all investigations in St. Tammany Parish to originate and to record the forensic audio and visual evidence that's used within the courts to prosecute and hold the offender accountable. We also provide therapy and advocacy to each child that walks through our doors. In the year 2019, unfortunately, we served more kids than ever before in our 25-year history. We have been in existence since 1994. We served 336 kids who had been abused and really provided them the ability to have a path to recovery and a bridge to justice. When Hope House forensic interviewing recordings are used, it results in 96.1% prosecution success rates. So if anyone, I'm sure that if I asked everyone within the room, if you have young kids, 0 through 17 in your lives, grandkids, nieces, nephews, direct daughters, sons, your kids are safer because of Hope House. Perpetrators are convicted because of Hope House. Kids are getting well because of Hope House. You look at the opiate crisis in our community. Why does that opiate crisis exist? If you look at that organically, perhaps it was due to trauma and the self-medication of an unmet traumatic need during childhood. We cure that. We heal that. We have evidence-based practices that ensure that children are changed from a trajectory of mental health, substance abuse, social problems, to being able to be kids again and being able to have the human right to have childhood and safety. So we take great pride in what we do. We fortunately had a cooperative endeavor agreement with the St. Tammany Parish government for many, many years, and in the past 2 years, that funding was cut. We are what's called an unfunded mandate. We do not receive any taxpayer funding whatsoever. We are funded through the generosity of citizens within our community. We served approximately 250 kids directly in St. Tammany Parish, and we would be honored to request 10% of that through a cooperative endeavor agreement so that we can continue to provide our essential services of keeping our community safe and allowing kids to experience safety during childhood. So we're very appreciative of your considerations. And Gia, would you like to say a few words?
Again, I just would like to say that we are a mandate with no funding. So anything you all could do to help us out, we'd appreciate it. I look around, I see faces. I see many of you that show up at our main fundraising, which is Men Who Cook, and that's on top of the Justice Center in Covington. It's going to be this year on November 8th. So we know that many of you support us individually as just regular citizens, but if we could collaboratively, we have a relationship with the District Attorney's Office, we have a relationship with our law enforcement, and we have a relationship with DCFS. So we're hoping that we can be in partnership with y'all as a community partner.
Absolutely, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Toledano?
Thank you, Mr. Lorino. I know this young lady. She's sort of my niece. I still consider her my niece. So perhaps my comments are tainted in that respect. But in all seriousness, and Thomas, in my one of my day jobs, I see the great work that your organization does. And if there's anything essential for protecting our children and promoting the health and welfare of them, it is your agency. So I just want to ask you an arithmetic question. When you said you're asking us for 10%, translate that to me. Is it 10% of what you used to get, or is it
It's
10%?
actually, so we serve 250 kids
Okay.
within St. Tammany Parish. We would be asking for $25,000 in annual support. It costs $1,000 per child that we serve. So every time a child walks through our doors, when St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office pulls up and we intake a child and do that forensic interviewing in our best practices way that minimize traumatization, it costs us $1,000. So that costs us $250,000. And thank you, because I should have clarified that. The city of Mandeville, just for transparency, We serve 25 children in the city of Mandeville, and they provide us with a cooperative endeavor agreement of $12,000 annually. We would be asking humbly for $25,000 in a cooperative endeavor agreement. This was the original intent of the Louisiana State Legislature, is that the funding would be generated amongst the community, both with municipalities, parish governments, and donors. And we also save taxpayers. I can give you research. I actually left you each with a copy of independent third-party research where we save per investigation $1,000 or 33%. And that is a study comparison two judicial districts, one utilizing a CAC, one not utilizing a CAC. And within the judicial district that utilizes the CAC, not only do we see these great outcomes with efficacy and reduced traumatization, but we also create a great cost savings because of the limitation of bureaucracy.
Thank you. And I just know this so much from in our practice and some of that work we do in the court system. What a great service you do. And I'm going to certainly ask our president, Mike, and the lady who is so magical with the numbers and so terrific is, in St. Tammany Parish, some way, somehow, we need to find this $25,000. If one in our district accounts, if I could allocate some of my money to that cause, I'd do it, but I don't think I can. She's the expert, and she's telling me, no, you can't do that. So otherwise, I would do it. But I know between the leadership of President Cooper and Leslie and the people that work to support them, we need to find a way to help these people. And I do appreciate y'all being here. Thank you very much.
Mr. Dean?
I got it. There's no doubt. I want to echo what Mr. Toledano says. I'm aware of, because I'm in the mental health field, I'm aware of the great work that y'all do. You all used to have St. Tammany and Washington because it's 22nd Judicial District.
Yes.
Are you all not doing Washington anymore?
No, sir, we certainly are. We cover the entire 22nd Judicial District, and the Washington Parish the Washington Parish government actually provides us with the Municipal Cooperative Endeavor Agreement. The number that I quoted, 336, out of those 336, 250 were St.
150
Tammany.
St. Tammany. Okay, all right. So they do pitch in.
They do. The city of
10% of-
Bogalusa, we have a cooperative endeavor agreement with the city of Bogalusa, Washington Parish Sheriff's Office, town of Madisonville, city of Slidell. St. Tammany we had for so long, but unfortunately that
Right.
was cut.
Yeah. And I remember I'm in NAMI, we had to cut NAMI, we had to cut the food bank. There's a lot of stuff we had to cut. I understand that, but I kind of want to echo what, I mean, everybody knows that or thinks that their cause is like the first one, but believe me, what you all do there certainly stops things down the road, whether it be drug abuse for these children, whatever else, all the abandonment issues, all that. So certainly is needed.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Mitchell, thank you very much, first of all, for everything you do and for doing it with the short amount of money that you don't have right now. And I'm sure that we will definitely look at every way possible to try to do that and help out. And if not, maybe we can send some money personally because it is a 503 and help you out also. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of the people in St. Tammany Parish. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. We
Mr.
appreciate
Bender, I'm sorry. Jerry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quickly, and Mr. Mitchell, if I missed this, I apologize, okay? Did you mention that you have federal funding and/or state funding?
We receive absolutely no state or federal tax dollars. We do receive what's called victims of crime, a very minor, about 20% of our budget, and that's where whenever a fine is ordered by a judge, you're sentenced to 10 years in jail and restitution of $5,000. That goes into a big pot for victims, and that's distributed, but that is not encountered in any way as taxpayer funding. So, and we receive absolutely no legislative funding. It doesn't
Okay.
exist.
And so your funding is strictly donations?
We are, very fortunate. Donations, 20% is the Crime Victims Fund, which are those fines. We receive some bail bonds, residual funds, about 3% of that for bail bonds fees. And the rest is strictly donations, about $300,000 a year just in donations from individuals and companies.
Well, I mean, I agree with Mr. Toledano and Mr. Dean. Yeah, I was asked to serve, and I do serve on advisory council for CASA, court-appointed special advocates. And I know that's different than what you all are doing, but it's a piece to a bigger puzzle. And, you know, I talk to my kids about this, and people in our community. Things are not easy nowadays for kids growing up. I think life was a lot simpler when most of us were growing up, you know. Everybody in the neighborhood was our parent. Everybody in our neighborhood told us what was right and what was wrong, and nobody beat us up. And it's sad what kids are having to go through right now. And I just want to say, Mr. Chairman and my colleagues, perhaps we as a whole council could make an appeal to the federal government. You know, we hear about the opioid crisis, and we hear about, you know, child care for people that are going to work and they need a place to have their children. But what about federal help for organizations like this who, like churches, they get a lot more done with a lot less bucks than if the feds or the state get involved in it, or local government. They just get a lot more done. So, I mean, is it possible for us to reach out on your behalf to the federal government?
You certainly could. That would be a relatively extraneous variable. You know, we would be so honored for you to advocate for us in any way. I would like to tell you, with the cases that we see, 90% are sexual abuse. So out of the 250 that came in, less than 25 would be physical beatings or things. So most of it is child sexual assault, and the average age of a Hope House child is 9.3 years old. So that's where our real concern is. And, you know, it's beyond those 336 kids. I have 2 daughters at home, 2 twin girls who are 3 years old, and I can promise you, because of Hope House and the convictions that have resulted because of this, my kids are safer, because perpetrators within our community, and we all know that it crosses socioeconomic lines and all different demographics, my kids are safer because of Hope House. Even though they don't know anything about Hope House, they're safer. So thank you. I know you all have a big agenda, and we don't want to take your time. Thank you.
But I would like to add one more thing, just so we can be proud. Since we've hired Thomas, he's gotten the recognition of the governor's office, and so they will be coming to Hope House this month.
February 17th.
February 17th, to use our Hope House as the model for the state. So we're real proud of that as well. But child abuse, particularly sexual child abuse, is alive and well in this parish, unfortunately. Thank you.
You all.
Thank you. Okay, what I'd like to do is deviate from the agenda for a minute and ask if I could have a motion and a second to open up the off-the-floor items.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Smith. Would you please vote? We need a unanimous vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. We'll go to the last page of the agenda, and February 6, 2020, items off the floor. Number 1, we'll take them all. Number 1, ordinance to amend the 2020 operating budget. Amendment number 4.
Motion to introduce.
Motion by Mr. Toledano to introduce, second by Mr. Dean. Thank you. Number 2, ordinance to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 1. Motion by Mr. Canulette, second by Ms. O'Brien. Thank you. Number 3, ordinance to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 2. Mr. Stefancic. Motion by Mr. Stefancic, second by Mr. Airy. Please, thank you. I'm going to skip number 4. I'm going to go to number 5, resolution to acknowledge and accept exceptions for the 2017 DOTD minimum design guidelines for LA Highway 41 spur bridge replacement. Mr. Mike Smith? Mr. Mike Smith? Yes, sir.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Stefanski. I believe you had someone you wanted to have speak, Mr. Smith?
Queen, well, I don't want to step on the president there. Okay. You sure you don't want to talk? Okay, I'd like to ask Mayor David McQueen, who knows about this bridge like nobody else, to come up and speak in support of this from Pearl River. And thank him for coming.
I'm here mostly to thank all of you for bringing this on the floor tonight and voting on it, because this has been a nightmare for us for 3 years, and the parish too, really. They've done most of the work for us, and I'm mostly here to thank y'all for all you did for us, and we appreciate it. Mr. Smith, I appreciate you coming on board and helping us with this too. So thank y'all very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. So we had a motion and a second. Please vote. Oh, you want to, somebody want to speak?
I wanted to say, you know, I hope we pass this tonight. I think we've done all the land acquisitions and got everything done. But if we don't meet the DOT deadline by doing this tonight, this bridge will be let in the next letting, which is in early March. So I hope that we get this thing through and get this. I mean, it's not only causing Mike problems, it's my district and Richard's district and everybody up around Pearl River that deals with it. So I hope that everybody will support it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. We'll go to number 6, resolution to acknowledge and confirm the president's appointment of parish engineer. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a privilege for me to, as an appointment in my administration, to appoint Mr. Jay Watson as parish engineer. Jay has, as you all know more than I, has worked with diligence to serve our citizens of St. Tammany Parish, to serve the parish council, to serve the parish president in identifying and helping us solve traffic, transportation, drainage, and other issues that affect our parish. And he leads a group of engineers and other staffers that equally serve us well. And I'm here to ask for your confirmation of Mr. Jay Watson as parish engineer.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Mr. Bender?
Yes, sir, and I'd like to comment quickly if I could.
You go ahead. Just make it quick, though, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Y'all know you can count on that, right? So, Mr. Parish President, thank you for nominating and asking us to confirm Jay as our parish engineer. I think all of us on the council that have dealt with Jay knows that he has a very can-do attitude. The guy is on top of things, and we have a lot of people in this government, in our people, that do great jobs, and Jay is one of them. I've come to realize that. I'm not going to mention the slight piece that I had to do with his life, okay? Because he was great when I met him at 9, and he was great after I got to know him at 11. Let's just say that. And I think he's followed his family tradition of being a sensational, young, up-and-coming person in our government. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Yes, I'd like to say that today at 2:30 to 3:30,
Jay was with me walking in the muck, one of these subdivisions that we were trying to look at over. 'Cause I had a call from a constituent, and I'll tell you, he's an intelligent young man. You know, as an engineer myself, just listening to him kind of gives me some revitalization that I wish I was back in school again, learning more stuff. Because the stuff they know now is much more than I knew when I was in school. But what an excellent choice.
Ms. Casabon.
Yes, I'd just like to say, working with Jay on the planning and zoning for many years, I concur with all of you that if he didn't have the answer, he found the answer for us, but it was very rare that he didn't have that answer for us immediately. So I'm very pleased that you're going to be a parachute there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. President, I don't think you could have picked a better person to handle that. As everyone said, Jay's very responsive, right on top. May not give you the answers you want, but he gives you an honest answer, and that's more important than anything. And so I want to just say that's a very good choice. Thank you very much.
So I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Bender, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote. What happened?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you.
None
very-
absent.
Okay, we'll go to number 4. Before I get into that one, just want to say a couple of things, and I'll read a little statement, but how blessed we all are, as Mr. Smith said a little while ago, about waking up on a bright, pretty day and walking around and looking around. Some of you were in this chamber in December when President Brista at that time was her last meeting, and it was a very emotional meeting. And quite honestly, at that time, I thought very much that I would see then President Brista come into some of these meetings or serve in St. Tammany Parish. But as we all know, that's not the case. For some reason, the Lord decided to call her. And so here we are tonight. And we have an ordinance to do something, but before I read the ordinance, I just want to make a brief statement on behalf of the council. At this time, I'd like to say a very few words in remembrance of our former parish president, Ms. Pat Brista. As a colleague, I'm grateful for the opportunity to have worked with Ms. Brista for St. Tammany Parish. She always did what she felt was best for the citizens of St. Tammany, regardless of support or criticism. And I will always hold a great deal of respect for her for that. Her commitment to public service is admirable. It's more than admirable. And it began long before she became St. Tammany Parish president and lasted until the end of her life. As a friend, I had the privilege of making Pat's acquaintance in 2000 when I was elected president of the Associated Branch Pilots. And that friendship grew from that day on to today. She was a gracious, caring person, and I'm thankful for every many years of friendship we shared, as I know everyone up here is. If you looked at Pat, I'm not going to go over Pat's accomplishments and what she did before she walked into St. Tammany Parish government, because they would be as long as this sheet of paper, and everyone has read them. So I'm going to skip that. As both a friend and colleague, I know that Pat had a valuable impact on this community and touched many lives during her time with us. On behalf of this council, and I must say, my friend there, President Mike Cooper, I had the privilege tonight of sharing with you all that we will be making a small step towards honoring her legacy. Safe Haven was a deeply meaningful project for Pat. She started that when the governor cleared that building out. And will be deeply meaningful project for Pat, and we will be renaming the road to Safe Haven campus in her honor. And from now on that street will be Pat Brister's Boulevard. I know she is already greatly missed, and I extend my deepest condolences to her family and wish them the very best through this difficult time. So, my friend, rest in peace. Number 4, ordinance to officially dedicate and rename the Safe Haven Parkway, RO4E 433, to Patricia P. Brister Safe Haven Parkway. Ms. O'Brien.
It's my honor to say so moved.
Thank you. Ms. Casabon. We have a motion by Ms. O'Brien and Ms. Casabon. Please vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else, before we move on, if anyone else want to share any comments before we move on to the regular agenda? Mr. Stefanczyk.
Yeah, I just want to say I think I've worked with Pat Brister as long as anybody up here. We certainly had our ups and downs. Everybody that knows Pat knows that you could joust with her, and if you had a problem, you could go work with her, or you may had a way that you wanted to do something and she wanted to do it a different way. But the thing about Pat was we always found a way to come to a common resolution of any issue that we had before us. And that I appreciated her very much for being able to work with her that way. I'll miss her not only for the work she did in this parish, but she also served on the Regional Planning Commission with me for several years and obtained funds for the infrastructure of St. Tammany Parish. She went to DOTD a lot, and the governor of the state of Louisiana, and finally went to places like Washington, D.C., to the federal government to talk to our senators in Congress to gain support for items in St. Tammany Parish. She did so much for St. Tammany Parish, and I, for one, will miss her a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Toledano?
Thank you, Mr. Lorino. Pat Brister was, and in spirit continues to be, a dear friend of mine and my family for years, way beyond my privilege to serve up here with these ladies and gentlemen. It's a pretty emotional thing to talk about someone that, of your own age first, I guess you should say, but also one that you don't believe should leave this earth so quickly. Someone that you believe still had many things to do on her list of things to do. So many more plans, so many more times that she wanted to spend with her wonderful grandkids. So much more time she wanted to have those great gatherings on her porch with her friends and share the experiences of life. So she leaves us too early, and I said this to someone the other day. When I was in law school, I wrote this down to myself one morning at 2 in the morning, cramming for a law school exam. Life is short, do something. Life was too short for her, but she did a hell of a lot. She is what I consider to be a leader. I read something. It's what's the definition of a lady? Because she was very much a lady. And it read, as I read it, a woman who is refined, polite, and well-spoken. a woman to whom homage should be paid. What better person than Pat Brister is someone of which homage should be paid? And then that lady and woman translates herself into a leader. And a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. We just talked about what Mr. Lorino said about the credit to her for Safe Haven. Thomas Mitchell and Gia Baker came before you and said Pat Brister was instrumental in getting Hope House on board. Because if there's ever an organization in this community that saves the lives of children, it's Hope House. She was honest. She had integrity. She inspired others. She had a commitment to St. Tammany Parish. For anybody who did not know, you need to know. It was an undying commitment. She was a great communicator, proven by the fact that she was well respected from Washington on down. She made great decisions. She was creative and innovative. I, for one, simply want to endorse what Mr. Lorino said and say how much I think all of us miss her. Thank you very much.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the recognition and acknowledgement for Ms. Brister as you're planning for the Safe Haven Boulevard simply exemplifies what she has done for particularly Safe Haven, mental health. That is only part of her legacy, and I think a great start. I speak on behalf of the employees of St. Tammany Parish that express our condolences and prayers for the family. And I know the employees are going to have those who have worked with her for a week or months or years will have an opportunity to attend the memorial visitation on Monday and the memorial service. And on behalf of myself personally and my wife and my family, we express our prayers and condolences for the family as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought about not saying something because I knew that we were going to have the memorial coming up Monday and Wednesday, but then I thought to myself, how can I not say something? So anyway, Pat was a can-do person. Any of you who knew her, she just, I mean, there were just so many, whatever came up, whatever obstacle came up, the I-12 accident out there that took the life of 4 or 5 people. I mean, she just went to it. She knew the people. She knew the people to call. She called them, and she got the money, and it'll be happening real soon. She always, all I would do is I'd text her and say, Pat, when you get a second, let me know. I'd like to give you a call about something. Whatever it was, a constituent needed something or whatever, she would immediately, she said, I'll call you in 30 minutes or call me at 2 o'clock or whatever. Every single time. It was that she was always ready. And I know there's 14 of us, and God knows how many constituents, but every single time she would return my phone call. She got the Safe Haven taken care of. You remember when the general administration said we're closing it like tomorrow? I mean, it was a very, very short notice. She got the group together and got it taken care of. So she was a real can-do person, very innovative, very energetic. She was taken from this earth way, way, way too soon, way too soon. Bless her heart. She had a lot of stuff she had, I know that she had to do. I remember texting her after the election and said, Pat, I can't wait to see what is in the next chapter of your life. So, and like I said, this is what happened. I'm gonna tell a quick story, kind of, because it's kind of funny. I've been reading the paper, and the different friends of hers would say that she had a good mixture of grace and grit. Have you read that in the paper? I mean, that was just Pat. And I remember talking to her back when she was a parish councilwoman, and it was right after she was appointed by President Bush to be the ambassador for, what's the name of it? For women's issues across the world. And she could sit back there and cuss and fuss and tell jokes and everything else with the best of us. I mean, but at the same time, tomorrow be sitting in front of the Queen of England or some head of state somewhere across the world and be the very gracious person. And I've told her that, and I've told plenty of people that. That to me defines Pat Brister. She just was one heck of a good mixture of a lady and a statesperson. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Dan. Mr. Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I simply want to pass on and echo what you said, Mr. Chairman, which is my condolences to our family. So in 2004, my colleague, Mr. Dean, who just spoke, and I came from Covington City Council and the Slidell City Council to the Parish Council. And as I'm not going to repeat what Marty said because he took some of my words, he's spot on, energetic, can do. We learned in those 4 years, and I know others who served on the council with her as well, learned this was a very dedicated, energetic person. Listen, we all know this. We have easy votes. We have many easy votes, but we also have tough votes. And I had a politician friend of mine ask me one time, this was funny, he wanted to know why he only got 78% of the vote. This is true. Because he was running against a person who, didn't have any knowledge, and it was a citywide, it was a mayoral race. So you might figure out who that is. And I said, listen, even if Jesus came down to earth again and ran for your seat, he would not get 100% of the vote. And at that point he said, thank you, man, you made me feel better. Well, listen, none of us will have a spot-free legacy, including Miss Pat, who I know is with the Lord. But let me tell you what, I work now with Kevin Davis and Pat Brister as parish president. One thing I knew in my first 4 years on the council here is that in order to be a good parish president, an effective parish president, you had to be willing to work and work and work and work tirelessly. And I want to say, I believe our new parish president is cutting that same mold, okay? All of us sitting in this room pretty much know the amount of effort and hours that the 3 parish presidents that we've had since we went to the parish council form of government, the amount of dedication and determination. Forget what we agreed and disagreed on, but the effort was there. So thank you, Ms. Pat. Condolences to her family. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kenulette.
Yes, thank you. Known Pat for 20 years, and what everyone has said is absolutely true. She could fight with the best of us, and she could compromise with the best of us. She took no quarter, nor did she give any. That I'm going to miss that more than anything. But let me tell you a little story with her that hits home with me. What a friend does is years ago, President Bush Sr. came to the Mandeville, and we got the privilege, members of the council, to go on the stage and stand behind the president while he gave the speech, his speech and stuff. So Pat arranged all that for the council. Now, I don't know what people call stroke, but that's pretty serious stroke. But she also mentioned to me, she says, look, the president is probably going to be stopping by when he leaves the stage by you. I said, okay. I had my 2 sons with me. My 3rd son, he was not old enough, mature enough to come to this. So as the president gives his speech, he turns to leave and he comes by, and they always pick a few and they stop, so he picks my family. So my oldest son is standing there, and President Bush goes up to him and says, how you doing? What's your name? And my son goes, It's like, tell him your name. So the name finally comes out, Keith. So I told my wife, I said, yeah, ain't that something? The president comes down here, it's probably, what do they got in the water in St. Tammany? They name their kids, So it was a wonderful opportunity for me and my family that we would have never had if not for her. And condolences to her family. And like Jerry says, I'm sure Mr. Cooper is going to do a fine job, and we're here for you too. So one thing I've learned after, now you're the third president, me and Steve have been here since the beginning. Can't do it by yourselves. We got to do this together. It's the only way anything's going to get done. So thank everybody.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, and I'll just close with one little, forgot to say it. One thing I know Pat's happy about, she's with Mr. Joe right now, and that was the most important thing. So anyway, thank you. Appreciate it. Let's go to appointments. I'm sorry? No, we don't have to vote. No. Okay, number one, resolution to reappoint Ray Burney, Willie, Weldon Crawford, Thomas Tom Seeger, Kurt Drummond, Dave Doherty Jr., Patrick Fitzmaurice, and Ronald Randolph. Terms expired to the Board of Commissioners for the Parish Planning and Zoning. Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, second by Mr. Toledano. Please vote. Yes, sir. Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, second by Mr. Canulette to suspend the rules and adopt.
Okay, hold on just a minute, please.
Got it.
The first motion passed, no one absent. Yes, thank you.
Okay, please vote. I don't know why mine's not working right.
Don't hit it again, it's good. Oh!
I'm a yes.
Motion is unanimous with a verbal vote for Mr. Lorino,
I'm a
one
yes.
absent.
Thank you. Mr. President, so now Mr. President, so now we have a full planning and zoning board with your two appointments also. Okay, number two, resolution to reappoint Tim Fandel, William Ballantyne, Louis Proctor, and Brian Snyder, terms expired, to the Board of Zoning Adjustments and Reappointment. Jules Guidry and Christy Thomas, terms expired, as alternate members to the Board of Zoning and Adjustments. Before I ask for a motion, I just want to state I'd like to ask to postpone this for 30 days. We've had some issues with some procedure, and before we reappoint, we're going to have a meeting set up with everybody to talk about it. So if I could have a motion motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, second by Mr. Canulette, to postpone. Mr. Bender, did you want to?
We can vote, Mr. Chairman, if you like, but I'd like to make
Okay. Yeah, let's vote.
Would you like me to speak now, Mr. Chairman?
No, I'm a vote, because it
Okay.
might take a little while for you to get over that to me.
Good things take time sometimes, you know? I got Al, our colleague, out there laughing. Thank you, Al. Thank you. I'm going to be talking to you after the meeting, Al, about something I talked to Mr. Dean about.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, Mr. Bender, you had the floor for 2 minutes.
I wanted the council to know this because I think we need to give these types of citizens acknowledgement and credit, okay? Last council meeting, I was speaking with a council member here, and someone came over to me and said that this lady would like to speak to you. And I didn't know the lady, so I walked out here, and she introduced herself. And she's a lady that sent us a resume. Her name's Wendy Gerard. Sent us a resume to be considered for planning and zoning or something involved with planning and zoning, okay? I had not met the lady before. I'm glad she wanted to speak. And I just want to say, she has an impressive resume. I'm not speaking against any person that wants to serve. I simply want to say, she sat through that whole council meeting. And that's the first thing that hit me. Because if you remember, last month was a long meeting, very long meeting. She was still sitting here from the beginning of the meeting to the end. And when I left, I said, that's a person who will put the time and effort in if we ever need her. So let's please consider her for something that might come up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. Appreciate it. Number three, resolution to appoint Larry P. Engling to fill a vacancy on the Finance Authority of St. Tammany Parish.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Canulette. Please vote.
You want a motion to suspend the rules to appoint?
Yes.
So moved.
We'll get the first one done. We don't have to? Okay. Well, it'll be a motion to suspend the rules. We'll vote on that one. So go, please vote. See if that works. Yeah, it worked. Just put me down for yes.
Mr. Stefanczyk, Mr. Airy. Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Thank you. Number 4, resolution to appoint Roger Carkin to fill a vacancy and to reappoint Philip Kahn, Mike Franklin, and David Talmadge on the Board of Commissioners for Sewer District No. 1. Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Canulette. Please vote. Mm-hmm.
Ms. Casabon? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Sure is. Number 5, resolution to reappoint Jerry Bender to the appointing authority for the Hospital Service District No. 2. Motion by Ms. O'Brien, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. Please vote. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That means you can't speak.
Mr. Airy? With Mr. Bender abstaining, motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. Number 6, resolution to appoint Clay Boyce to fill a vacancy and to reappoint Tony Costa, Wayne Kemp, and Pete Pearson to the Board of Commissioners for Sub-District Drainage No. 3 of Gravity Drainage District No. 5.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Tanner. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, we'll go to the consent calendar. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar are automatically approved in whole by one vote. Items pulled from the consent calendar are discussed and voted upon individually. Majority of vote of the entire council, 8, is required to adopt the consent calendar. What we have to pull tonight so far is only resolutions. Resolution number 1, C-6213. Number 2, C-6229. Number 6, C-6233. Number 7, C-6234. Number 9, C-6236. Mr. Dean, do you have anything else? Mr. Fitzgerald? Ms. Casabon? Thank you. Mr. Davis? Mr. Tanner? Mr. Toledano?
None, thank you.
Mr. Canulet? Mr. Smith? Ms. O'Brien? Mr. Tavancic?
Resolution number 5, which is 6232.
Thank you. 6232?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
6325.
No. Number 5. Resolution, right? Pay attention. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Bender? Mr. Airy? Mr. Smith? Thank you, sir. Could I entertain a motion? Motion by Mr. Stefancic, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote for all other items to be approved that were not pulled.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Thank you. Okay, resolution number 1, resolution CS number C-6213, resolution to approve, reject Board of Commerce and Industry approved application for an industrial tax exemption by All Pack Products, LLC. I believe we have Mr. Chris Massengill that would like to address us on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome.
Thank you again, Council. It's always a pleasure to be in front of you talking about job creation and economic opportunities. Mr. President, thank you. And members of the Council, here with me tonight is Eric Hanrahan, the General Manager of Allpacks, and Mark Silverdine, the owner of Silverdine Construction and the developer on this project. We're excited to announce to you that a 25-year native of St. Tammany Parish that manufactures retort processing, sterilization equipment, autoclaves for the food, business, and pharmaceutical industries, selling their equipment globally, is wanting to stay in St. Tammany Parish and expand. This project will construct an 80,000 square foot facility with an investment of $7 million. Additionally, the project will make an additional $2.5 million in local purchases over the next 10 years. Along with the capital investment, Allpacks will create 5 new full-time additional jobs with an average wage that is 57% higher than the average current wage in St. Tammany. The company also expects to keep the 55 current employees that has an annual wage of over $72,000, which would maintain a historically significant positive impact on St. Tammany's economy. We believe this project will have a strong and positive return on investment for Louisiana and St. Tammany Parish as it relates to job creation, capital investment, and future job retention. And of course, as a matter of procedure and diligence, as you expect from us, we commissioned an independent cost-benefit analysis that showed a 6.9 to 1 in benefit back to the jurisdictions in St. Tammany Parish, meaning that Allpacks projects is expected to generate almost $7 in new taxes for every $1 of new government expenses it generates. At your direction, we also did further analysis to examine a more direct and tangible impact on local revenue. We found that an improved ITEP, which means that it would provide an abatement benefit of $764,222 in property taxes abatement for Allpacks. In return, it would generate $429,963 in taxes collected
as well as $553,473 in sales and use tax. Meaning once the ITEP benefit terms has ended, this project quickly returns a net return for the parish of 26% total and a total net gain of almost $200,000. As a result of that, and as a result of these positive impacts, Mr. Chairman, we respectfully request your approval this evening and thank you for your continued support of business expansion and economic development in St. Tammany. I'm open for questions.
Oh, thank you. You made it with 16 seconds left. You're
Hey.
getting pretty good at that, Chris. Okay, appreciate it.
I'm trainable, Mr. Chairman. I'm trainable.
I understand. Thank you very much. Mr. Toledano.
Can I use some of your time?
Of
No,
course.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Pardon me. So, Mr. Massengill, you'll recall the work that several of us did with you concerning one of the earliest ITEP applications coming to this parish. And what we did, for purposes of everybody here and some of our new council members, we had an analysis of the impact on these fire districts. You'll recall that.
Yes,
Do you know,
sir, absolutely.
And I know that you were instrumental in helping some of us approach that particular applicant and asked him for some acknowledgement of the loss of revenue that would inure to the benefit of these fire districts. And needless to say, I wouldn't say that one was successful, but in all fairness to your effort on that, it came after the fact.
Yes, sir.
After the approval, shall we say. So my pointed question to you is, have you met with the ALLPAC group, defined to them the impact for, and I'm particularly interested in the fire districts, and whether there's been any acknowledgement by them in effort to assist our firemen and our firefighting men and women as to the loss of their revenue?
Yes, sir, Mr. Vice Chairman. In fact, through the learning process and as a way to make sure we show continued accountability, transparency, and due diligence, we learn from that experience, and we also recognize, because of the way we do the cost-benefit analysis, that we needed to do additional reviews specifically on the impact of fire protection. And as a result of that, we learned a great deal, and I am pleased to tell you that as a result of our process, as a result of you codifying the unified ITEP processes in St. Tammany, we're now able to work with the fire districts, the fire professionals, and do a very deep dive analysis of fire protection on individual economic development projects that's consistent, that's scientific based, it's results driven, it's apples to apples, it's tied to the fire ratings, so it's not apples to oranges, it's not hypothetical, and we're able to do that in a very appropriate and accurate way. And I'll tell you, Mr. Chairman, that it has been an honor to work with such an outstanding corporate citizen and a company like ALLPAC's Products that understands that their commitment to the community for 25 years of being here and their future growth opportunity. We have met with the fire district, in this case, Fire District 13, and the company and my team, Jake Nickens, who has been project lead on this project, and we have been able to identify that. We've worked through that exercise. We've come up with a formula that is a part of our process. In fact, Council, I believe that the fire chief of Fire District 13 has sent an email acknowledging that and recognizing that we're in the process of coming up with a partnership agreement that will well satisfy the real impact to Fire District 13. And I applaud ALLPACs for being willing to step up and to do that.
So you have a definitive commitment from them on that?
Yes, sir, we do.
Thank you. In the absence
Eric,
of
is that
Mr.
an
Lorino,
accurate
does
statement?
anybody have any questions? Any other body? Here comes Mike.
Mr. Mazengill.
Yes, sir.
While we have you here tonight, I wanted to, and this is regarding ALLPACs, okay, and any other economic growth that we can have the opportunity to vote on especially with this expansion with ITEP. A lot of us, I think all of us, and you probably, I know you've received this, but I was reviewing an email that we get from government entities, federal government entities, and non-political entities that do analysis of states and where we stand on different things and so forth. And I found this one both interesting and disheartening. And it was this: how do the individual states rank when you assess, and this is what they did, when you assess healthcare, safety, economic growth or opportunity, education, service, hospitality, a number of things that to me make up the essence of a state, a parish, a city, whatever. And Louisiana, and this was the 2018 analysis. I don't think the 2019's out yet. Louisiana was 50th, okay? So I know St. Tammany is not the particular reason for being 50th, okay? But we're in that state. We're in this state, okay? And we all want the state to do well. But it seems to me, and I want your opinion on this, that what we're seeing with these votes on ITEP is, and I look at it as, we don't have the Mississippi River flowing through our parish. And I don't think we want it. We don't. But you take St. Charles Parish, 1/4 of the population of St. Tammany Parish, but more than twice the budget, okay? This seems to me to be, and I want to ask you this is my question, is this the path that Tammany Corporation is taking to present us with economic development, economic growth, and of course the opportunity to perhaps bring in companies from other states, other parts of the world? But is this part of your model to increase jobs and make us less dependent on tax dollars? Because we're at the max.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Well, yes, sir. Economic development is a team effort. And our mission every day at the St. Tammany Corporation is to make sure that St. Tammany Parish is the destination of choice. The destination of choice for talent and human capital, the destination of choice for the ability for our existing companies to expand, new business formations, and the opportunity to recruit and create new businesses right here in St. Tammany Parish. That's what we get up every day and we think about, making sure that that economic landscape puts us in the most competitive position possible to do that, where we can be the destination of choice. One of the most powerful tools that we have to do that is the ITEP program. It gives us the ability to compete globally to make sure we're leveling the playing field for our existing companies and for new companies that are looking at us. And thank goodness that St. Tammany Parish, you all ought to be proud that we are a beacon when it comes to the opportunity for growth and economic opportunities. And Mr. President, you and I have had chances to talk about that already, and I'm excited about your vision about that, because we are a place where we have the talent, because we have the most trained and educated workforce in the entire state and region. We have 250,000 people in this parish that contribute to the economy. We are fueling the economy of the entire region. Over $10 billion we contribute to the 10-parish GNO Inc. region right here in St. Tammany Parish. We go toe-to-toe with every parish in the state. Highest medium household income, average wage, the number of jobs, our participation rate compared to other parishes and in the region gives me and my team and this parish an opportunity to be effective in economic development. That's why companies like All Packs, Medline, Others want to come here, grow here, be here because we have the right people, we have the right assets, and now we just need to be more aggressive. And that's why I came to you on day one, 18 months ago, telling you I'm putting on the helmet, our pads, we're getting into the field, and we're competing every day, and we're not backing away from that. And I stand by that still today, and ITEP is a part of that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, I have two questions. One for Councilman Lorino, because I am new. Your tax abatement for this, would it be 5-year and then a renewal, or is it 10 years
It's a
guaranteed?
5-year with a total of 10 years. The state makes the determination on the renewal.
Okay.
This is your opportunity to evaluate the project and determine that it's the right investment for us to make as a parish.
Okay. Then I have some other questions, which from the presentation before, I want to make sure that I've
Yes, sir.
gotten things right. Okay, you're a homegrown industry. You guys are home-based
All-Pax
here,
is.
started here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your environmental footprint in relation to, I'd love to have St. Charles's budget, but it is Cancer Alley. So we're not talking about a heavy environmental footprint, right?
That's correct.
Okay, you're building a new facility, putting a lot of investment out there. Okay, the jobs pay, I've been teaching school for 20 years. The jobs pay better than I might quit and go join up. Okay.
All-Pax is a good company to work for.
Yeah. And a lot less aggravation. Yeah, okay. And theoretically, when they move, that other property goes up, and we get hopefully another business in, that will be paying taxes. And you've never asked for an ITEP before, right?
This company has never participated in the ITIP program.
That's it.
All-Pax products, yes,
I
sir.
don't have any other questions.
Chris?
Yes, sir.
I may have missed it, but I think it was $8,000 or something. Did you talk about that? What the tax was that we would not be collecting, we wouldn't be collecting $8,000. Was that the number I remember?
In terms of what the abatement would be for the parish portion
sir.
or what they're paying now?
No, the parish portion right now.
So you want to talk about the spreadsheet?
Yes, sir. The assessors were kind enough to provide some tax spreadsheets that have been distributed to you. The parish-specific portion of the benefits, the 10-year benefits, comes out to just over $8,000 a year is the parish government-specific millages that we're talking about.
Okay, that's the number you gave me. Okay. Okay.
And just for the record, Mr. Chairman, that's Jake Nickens. He's a nationally certified economic development finance professional and handles all of our technical work on the ITEPs.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Fitzmara, would you like to come up and say hello?
And Mr. Chairman, while he's coming up, I do want to say thank you to the assessor and his team. He's been critical in this process and continues to show amazing leadership with us as economic developers, and that doesn't happen everywhere, so thank you, Assessor. You're welcome.
And good evening, and I do want to recognize my Chief Deputy Troy Dugas, and also, if I may, just take a moment here to express my sincere condolences to the Parish Council and to the many employees and people who work with Pat, and also, of course, her family. Pat was a remarkable woman, strong, dedicated, passionate about our parish here. And yes, Reichert, she was a leader. She was a leader, and she will be missed. And so my thoughts and condolences and prayers are with all y'all.
Thank you.
Anyway, so Mr. Chairman, you had asked me to attend the meeting, and I'm here to any kind of questions in regards. What I would like to start off, if I may, because I would like to take the opportunity to explain how unique St. Tammany Parish is, particularly when it comes to the property taxes. But what I'd like to start off with is with a letter that I'm going to send to all the public agencies and all the taxing bodies that deal with or have budgets with the ad valorem taxes, if I may.
You go right ahead, sir. You have the mic.
ITEP is a program that allows for businesses to apply for ad valorem property tax exemption. In the past, the decisions to grant these exemptions were made by the Louisiana Economic Development or the Board of Commerce and Industry. I believe it was in 2016, Governor Edwards granted this authority to local government, specifically the school board, parish government, and sheriff, as well as any affected municipality. The governor also eliminated the 100% exemption in favor of an 80% exemption. As the assessor, I am a non-voting advisor to the 3 taxing bodies that comprise the local authority over all parish IT applications. Since local government has been given this authority, 3 projects were unanimously approved in St. Tammany Parish by all the agencies under the first set of the new rules. As a result, the new assets are being placed on the roll at 20% of what would be the normal assessed value. We've been asked by several taxing bodies about the consequences of various possible split vote scenarios. Unfortunately, there is little guidance on how to interpret the current rules, and these rules are subject to change in the future, and I want to emphasize that, subject to change. My feeling is either through the governor's office, the legislator, or more than likely the courts, this issue is going to be decided. So based upon the best information currently available, I intend to proceed as outlined herein. So I'm going to use an example here. So for example, if the parish government was to vote no, and the school board and sheriff voted yes, the breakdown would go this way. For the parish and the agencies for which it sets the millages, and I may not have all of them, but I'm going to read some of them: the library, Coast Start, coroner, animal shelter, public health, and there may be some drainage, stuff like that. That y'all are in charge of those millages. The new asset would have no exemption and go on for 100% for value. For the school board, the sheriff's office, and the remaining non-voting taxing bodies, which also includes my office, the new asset would have an 80% exemption and go on for 20% of value. So if the reverse was to happen, and the parish government voted yes, and the school board and the sheriff voted no, the parish government and those agencies I listed before, the new asset would have an 80% exemption and go on for 20% of value. And for the school board, sheriff office, and all the rest of us, it would go on for 100%. So I finish up my letter by saying I completely understand if you have any questions regarding this. So please contact me or my chief deputy, Troy Dugas. That's how I literally end that letter. So, so in that regards, and I'm going to go ahead and bring this up because one of you may ask, if a municipality is involved, then you would have 4 members. So what the heck do I do if it's a tie vote? I don't know. I have not made that. I am waiting. I am pretty sure the courts are going to make that decision in the near future because there are some parishes where this is going on, and I don't want to name any names or parishes, but we believe some of this is going to court. Some of this is going to court. But if I may too, I want to go ahead and take this opportunity since we're on this subject, because St. Tammany Parish is such a unique parish. And we're unique in a lot of ways, but I'm going to focus on the property tax part of it. The majority of the property taxes paid in this parish are paid by residential property owners. Now, there may be some other parishes out there that's like that, but we think we have like the highest percentage, where it's like a 60% to 40%. So 60% of all the revenue that is being generated through ad valorem taxes is through residential property owners. Now, of course, those with the biggest bills are the commercial, and that would be Clico, I think Chevron, some of the pipeline companies. They'll pay the biggest bills. But overall, all the revenue generated, like I said, 60% of it is coming from residential property owners. We only have, this I do believe we have the record as far as the parish, only about 5% of our residential property owners are totally homestead exempted. And for the most part, out of that 5% is those that are on the senior freeze and have been on for a while, or those who live in house trailers, usually out in the country and stuff. So for the most part, like I said, everybody in this parish, except for very few, pays some property tax. What we do need here is more commercial. We're going to be here in the already we're probably the 4th largest parish in the state. I think we took over Caddo, and when the census come out, it should be official. Now, one thing, the three parishes that are larger than us, and I'm not sure what order it is, but East Baton Rouge, Jefferson, and Orleans, those three parishes have all something in common that we don't have with them. That's the Mississippi River. That was mentioned earlier. Another thing that they have, too, and the industry that goes along with it. Another thing those three parishes have that we don't have is gaming. They have gambling, and we don't have that either. We don't want either of those. That's not what we want. Our largest industry, as far as I'm concerned, in this parish has been residential home building. And then you have the commercial that follows the rooftop, and for the most part, that's retail. I'm not comfortable depending on retail. We don't know what the future of retail is, or even office supply, where so many people are working out of their house now. So we need to bring in some type of commercial businesses that fit with what we want here at the parish, that are low impact. We just talked about environmental footprint and stuff, yet are going to pay some taxes. So I know it sounds sort of counterintuitive that we're going to give this business a break, a tax break to get them here, to get more taxes. But that's what we need to do. To me, ultimately, this is a business decision. I think Chris did an excellent job describing it that way. This is an investment. This is an investment by us, really the taxpayers. Because if they're not paying their taxes, then obviously we are. So what is that return? If that return is greater than the investment, to me, that's a good business decision. And that's something you want to do. And that's what we have to do. We have to look long term. We have to look at the future of this parish as we grow. Because we have one of the best quality of lives in this parish of any parish in the state. I feel very comfortable saying that. We have great school. We have invested in what's important in this parish, but we need to bring in more of these type of businesses. So, and I think there's also always some concern, okay, we approve one, that means we're going to rubber stamp the rest of them. No, I don't believe we should do that. We should look at the merits of each one of these projects that come before you. They're all going to be different. Some of them might not be a good investment, might not be a good return. I don't even think if it breaks even, it's a good investment. We need to see what we're going to get out of it. So, Mr. Chairman, I hope I've provided some information here. I'm open to any questions.
Well, Mr. Fitzmaurice, yes, you did, but I have one question. This company has a facility right now that they're operating out.
Yes, sir.
And they're going to be moving to another facility.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when they move to the other facility, the old one will be there. How does that fit in on the tax roll?
It's still going to be on there. Let's just say this new building's been, and Allpat decide to go out of business or something, you're still going to have that asset there, so you're going to continue. The only time we may lower the value if it was to stay, unoccupied for a while, I mean, long-term, and we may go up to give 50% depreciation if it's vacant for an extended period of time, but it will still have a value. But I'm quite confident that Chris and his crew would make sure there's a tenant in there really, really quick. So, I'm very confident of that.
So we're getting on both ends is what you're saying when you look at it.
Yeah, yes.
Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, beg your pardon?
We're going to collect on both.
Oh, yes, sir.
We're not losing that other one.
We're not losing at all. We're gaining.
We're gaining.
And
right.
Personally, I'd rather have 20% of something than 100% of nothing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
Mr. Canulet.
I got a question for Chris.
Yes.
Thank you, Lewis.
Oh, you done with me?
Yeah, I'm done
all
with
right.
it,
Is
man.
everybody else done with me?
I have one more for you. Do you know, has the school board or the sheriff's moved on this, or maybe Chris knows that answer?
I think Chris would probably know that better than I.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think, is it?
Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
There was no way Jerry's going to let me get up here and not ask me a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Bender. You can jump Mr. Canulet.
There you go.
No, Chris, are you okay with
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, he's.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
No, so, Lewis.
Yes, sir.
First, I really mean this. Thanks for coming to the podium, and I think the way you presented it to us is important. I really do, because we're subject to having to make this vote. Your encouragement to me, and I say this very sincerely, is important.
Thank you.
Because I think that's what we're all thinking of, okay? And that's why I asked Chris the question. So, Chris, what the assessor said, and I want to be clear on this, when you said $7 of trickle down to every $1 of government dollars, that's what Lewis was referring to, right? If it was break even, we would all agree, not a good deal. But the 7-to-1 that you spoke of, Chris, that's exactly what he was referring to, correct? Okay, thank you, Lewis.
Thank y'all so much. Thank you.
Boy, you're lucky. He finished very fast on that one.
He likes me, I know.
Anyway, Mr. Can,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Yeah.
Canula.
I got a question for Chris real quick. I had to step out. I'm sorry. I got to apologize.
Yes, sir.
How many spinoff jobs are we possibly talking about with this move and addition of a couple employees? Are we talking any type of spinoff companies that are going to want to come in and support this expansion?
Well, part of the whole rationale that we've learned from the company is that the reason that they're making that investment is to increase capacity, to increase their strength and their ability to serve their customers and to grow, to modernize, and that's a good thing. They're a part of a global company called Promac, and they recognize because of the performance and the investments that this is a place to continue those investments. So Allpax is making the investments in new equipment to stay up, to build capacity, and to grow that. They have a pretty significant vendor base, and that vendor base contributes back to us too, particularly in sales and use taxes as well. That's where part of this 26% return that we know that we're going to generate that specifically speaks to the tax revenues. Yep.
Thank you, Lewis. That was great. You should bring him more often.
I totally agree. We need to go on the road because if you will allow me, the reality is that what we've learned in our depth of ITEP, both from the assessor's office and economic development and the committee, including the professional staff of both the parish, the school district, and the sheriff's office, I would put up with any other parish in the entire state because we've had to learn to do it because there has been no guidance at the state level, and we had to do it. We had to figure it out, and we know more. This guy right here, I'd put him up against anybody in the state on the technical aspects of ITEP. Yes, sir.
School board?
Yes, so we're on the agenda next Thursday on the school board, and the sheriff has communicated he will review and then go with the will of the group.
Okay. Mr. Davis?
Got a question.
Yes, sir.
First of all, you didn't have to put the return on investment for 15 years. You didn't need to do that. I mean, it
Well,
really
it
should
helps
have
us
been.
demonstrate the full picture.
Yeah, I understand
sir.
the full picture, and we've talked about this together. I think sometimes people they look at the numbers and it's so easy to say, well, that's not enough money or, things like that. But there's a snowball effect here, When people are going to be working on this, building this place, eating at Burger King, wherever, I mean, they're
Yes, sir.
adding benefit to the parish and things like that. Now, even though you only have 5 new employees coming in, that's still 5 new employees. Hopefully, they'll live in St. Tammany Parish.
Well, 76% of the current employees right now live in St. Tammany Parish.
That's even better.
Yes, sir.
Just keep them here. And in 15 years' term of return on investment, hope they got kids. I mean, so it all kind of comes into a snowball effect too.
Yes, sir.
Plus, it is a state mandate. So, I mean, this has been in effect for a while.
Yes, sir.
So I'll make a motion to approve if anybody else doesn't want to talk.
What's that about? She didn't say the card, yeah. Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Davis. Was there a second? Second by who? Toledano. I'm sorry, no, what else we had? Did you put a card in?
Nobody will.
Well, you should put it in at the beginning when you know they're on the agenda. Do you know the rules?
The agenda today.
Do you know the rules that we have a card? So you go ahead and speak. You have 3 minutes.
The link wasn't working today.
The link was fine.
prior-
Go
I
ahead
don't
and move
think it
on. This has
was.
been on the agenda. Go ahead and move on. You got 3 minutes.
I don't necessarily need 3 minutes, but okay, I'll take them.
You take
I
it.
think maybe you might want to consider modifying the giveaway, only because from what we heard in the last couple months, if the parish is truly at the fiscal cliff, then can we afford to continue with every new building that comes in to give away tax abatement for 5 years or 10 years or however many years? Fire, police, EMS, none of those are covered. I understand the building's moving. This is not new industry. This is industry that wants to be here, and they probably want to be here because of what Mr. Massengill said. We are fueling the economy for the whole region, so we'll be fueling the economy for this particular business. The right people, the right assets, we have those here now. They want to be here. Other businesses want to be here too. Commercial businesses, and a lot of them want to be here because of what we already offer. Can we afford to continue giving everything away? What I would suggest, one other thing before I say that, we have not had historically any checks and balances regarding the new jobs, retention of jobs, the jobs that they claim are offsetting what they're bringing to the community. We had that problem with Folgers. We had that problem with other entities. There isn't a mechanism in place from the entity that Mr. Massengill represents or any prior agency, and that's been a problem for us in the past. What I'm going to suggest is, because there are benefits to giving things away like this, tax abatement like this, and since the majority of our taxes go to the school board, the employees of this particular business or other businesses, their employees will be paying the school tax if they're living in our district. So why wouldn't we consider then whatever that, and Mr. Fitzmaurice can tell us what the percentage is that we pay on a regular basis as taxpayers. If it's 60%, say, to the school board, don't have the new businesses, commercial businesses, pay that 60%. They only pay the 40%.
Thank you. 3 minutes is up. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we had a motion and a second.
Can I make a comment, please?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a comment on this. I called the ethics board up there and also the economic board up in Baton Rouge. And how ITEP worked initially was to give 100% tax off for new industry. And then the governor went ahead and made it to 80%. You can't wheel and deal. This is a state tax mandate. So you can't just say, okay, we'll give you 40% off or 30%. That's not how it works. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, for that information. Appreciate it. Seeing no one else in the queue, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. Number 2, Resolution CS number C-6229, resolution approving the holding of an election in Recreation District Number 14. Motion by Ms. Casabon, second by Mr. Dean. Mr. Sluter, I believe you're here. Thank you.
Grant Schluter with Foley Udell Bond Counsel, and Richard Bentley Smith is the Executive Director for the Coquille District. This is a request by the Coquille District to hold an election on April 9th to authorize an additional $7 million of general obligation bonds. The Coquille District is levying 4.47 mils for all of their outstanding general obligation bonds, and there is no projected increase above the current 4.47 mils rate.
Any questions? Seeing no questions, we had a motion and a second. Please vote. Oh, I thought, yeah, Ms. Casabon did. Ms. Casabon and Mr. Dean did. Okay. Okay, please vote. Oh, Mr. Tanner. Yeah, gotcha.
Mr. Airy? Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 5, Resolution CS number C-6232, resolution to accept ownership of portions of state roads LA 1085, LA 434, LA 433, LA 1093-2, and LA 1129 from the state of Louisiana, Department of Transportation and Development, subject to conditions outlined herein, to authorize the parish president to execute documents necessary to transfer same. Mr. Stefanczyk.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've looked at these roads, and we're piecemealing a lot of roads here, and I don't quite understand why we're piecemealing them, and I don't quite understand who negotiated this with DOTD, that we would be taking on these particular roads. And in particular, the one that I look at, I mean, there's some things that are good in here, and I think I was talking to Richard about the Isabel Swamp Road and the work that they're going to do up there, but I look at us taking over, and I'm not exactly sure whether they're talking about the old Bayou Liberty Road or the new Bayou Liberty Road, that we're going to take over 4/10 of a mile of Bayou Liberty Road from Bayou Bonfacall down 4/10 of a mile west. Now, if you can just understand that if that distance is like this, we're taking in the middle of it, this little piece here. And I don't understand how somebody came up with that thing, and I'd like to have probably an opportunity to meet with the Public Works, the Department of Engineering, or legal counsel. I think it's legal counsel that drafted this ordinance, and I'd like to at least understand what they're doing. If you read the ordinance and try to figure out where in the heck the money is coming from and where it's going to, it's difficult as heck to follow anything through there, so.
Councilman Stefanczyk. So we worked with DOTD to draft this resolution. I believe they came up with the draft language, and then we reviewed it with our legal department. But it was confusing to me when I first looked at it as well. But in the first paragraph, we're looking at an exchange for the prior transfer of previously accepted ownership. So on ST1, the portion of LA 1085, ST2, the portion of 434 that you're talking about.
That was the second one I was looking
right,
at.
ST3,
433 is the one I was.
Right, ST3 is 433, and then ST4, 1093-2. It doesn't have the date on ST3 that it was taken in, but if you look at ST4, that was taken in 1986. ST2 was taken in 1955. Those 4 roadways are already in our maintenance system, and this resolution is simply where we're acknowledging the previous transfer of those roads into our system. And what we're currently taking in would be a portion of LA 1129 Lee Road for improvements that they're going to do on Isabel Swamp Road, Eagle Street, and Woodland Drive.
So let me go back and ask my question again then. What we're taking in is not part of the existing 433. What it appears we're taking in is what's called Old Bayou Liberty Road, which we've been maintaining at least since I've been on the police jury. And that's what I'm asking is, are we taking over that road that we supposedly have been maintaining for 30 years? Or are we taking over a new portion of a road that they built, 30 years ago?
We're not taking over anything new on 1085, 434, 433, or 1093. The only new state road that we're taking over is 1129.
Well, 433, what is that you're taking? It says you're taking it in.
No, it says that where the St. Tammany Parish Council, in exchange for the prior transfer of those 4 roads, ST1, 2, 3, and 4, those were already transferred to the parish in the past.
Okay.
So this may be just an acknowledgement of that.
Yes, this is an acknowledgement of that transfer. With the exception of. Right, and that's where we were confused too. I was like, what.
Yeah, it has to be Old Bayou Liberty Road that you're taking in.
Yes.
Because that's been on our books since I was on the police jury in '88. It's been on before then. So they must be acknowledging what happened when they built Bayou Liberty Road straight, and old Bayou Liberty Road had a curve in it, came out and came back to meet Bayou Liberty Road. And when I read this, it says it comes out to a point, where there's an intersection of the old Bayou Liberty Road. And I didn't know which part of the road they were taking in and why. Okay? I think that probably answers my question, so.
I just want to thank Steve for looking out for my district. And since we've been studying this for about 6 months with the Department of Transportation and the Department of Engineering and the legal department, I think we know what we're doing. And I'd like to proceed with this project.
Okay. Okay, we have,
That was LA 433, and there's not 1 inch of 433 that's in District 6.
I got you. Well, y'all take care of that. Let's just go ahead and vote on it then.
Okay?
Okay. We had a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Thank you. Number 6, Resolution CS number C-6233, resolution to amend ordinance CS number 19-4179 to make changes to the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets. Need a motion to remove.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Canulette to remove. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Number 7, Resolution CS number C-6234, resolution to acknowledge and confirm the President's Director appointments for 2020 through 2024. Mr. President, motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, second by Mr. Toledano. Go ahead, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Parish Council. These are the remaining appointments to the director positions for the departments in parish government. And I'm just going to run through them because you know them all.
Yes, sir.
Leslie Long, Chief Financial Officer, Director of Finance. Melissa Sullivan, Director of Animal Services. I'm not sure if Melissa is here. Tim Brown, Director of Environmental Services. Bruce Crouch, Director of Facilities Management. Jean Marino, Director of Grants. Adrian Strobel, Director of Human Resources. Kenneth Wertman, Director of Inspections and Enforcement. Anthony Smith, Director of Procurement. Shannon Davis, Director of Public Works. And Rick Loggins, Director of Technology. They joined the previous appointments of Gina Hayes, CAO, Ross Liner, Planning, Clarence Poe, Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, and Jay Watson, Parish Engineer. So, if you'd like for each of them to come up and give a 5-minute presentation about their qualifications, or because you've known them from their past experiences in service to St. Tammany Parish, I will ask for your confirmation of these appointments.
Well, if you're happy with all of those individuals, Mr. President, I'm happy with them. So,
Good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would you please go ahead and vote?
Maybe 10 minutes each. We have 10 minutes
Motion
for
is
Mr.
unanimous, no 1 absent.
Thank you, Mike. Number 9, Resolution CS number C-6236, resolution to amend ordinance CS number 19-4179 to make changes to the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets. Mr. Stefanczyk.
One that we have to do by ordinance, right?
Yes, sir. We have to pull it.
So we just
to remove it?
We just removed this one because we got the ordinance.
Yes, sir.
On there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I move to remove.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Stefancic to remove, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Before we go to the appeals, Mr. Airy, I think you wanted to ask me a question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I had asked to speak on item number 3, and I was knocked out of the queue, and I didn't realize the proper protocol was to shout.
Shout at me.
On that.
Please holler.
So I did want to reconsider that because I had a question, and I'd asked you before the meeting about that, and it was never answered on why we were appointing someone when there was already an alternate on that board who appears to be a female. We already have 4 men on that board, and we appointed another man, not to say anything that we have to necessarily do that, but I just never got an answer to that question, why an alternate trustee who had been on this as an alternate for a number of years wasn't considered for this post.
Gotcha.
So that would be, I would ask to reconsider to have that question answered.
Okay. Well, I think Mr. Fitzmaurice is not here, so I would, defer to him on that one. So if you'd like, I think you can make a motion to reconsider. Get a second, we'll vote on it, and we'll look at it next month. And we'll be able to get that answer for you.
Which one are we talking about?
Number 3, resolution.
Which one was it?
Right here, resolution. Resolution to appoint Larry. Finance Authority.
I don't know why, I don't understand.
Okay. Do you make that motion, Mr.?
Yes, sir, I make that motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Canulet, to just postpone it for 30 days to the next meeting. Reconsider, yes, sir.
Yeah. First, you need to vote on the motion to reconsider, and then you can talk
Okay.
about what you want to do with it next.
Okay, the motion to reconsider by Mr. Airy and Mr. Canulet. Please vote.
It's essentially a motion to recall. Because he was already appointed.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Mr. Airy, would you like to make a motion to reconsider to the next meeting? Yes, sir. Second by Mr. Canulet. Any questions? Seeing none, please.
I'm sorry, how do I handle the appointment?
We just push it off for 30 days, so you can reconsider.
Yes, so the motion to reconsider is to reconsider the vote that they took. The vote that they took was to appoint Larry England. So now, rather than voting to appoint, we have a motion to postpone. So it sort of erases that previous action if the motion to postpone passes. And the action will be to postpone it, so we can just go on next month's agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Seeing no one in the queue, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. Well, that's okay. That's all right. So please just holler next time or throw something. I apologize.
I would like to say this though, Mike, since we got some new members, if there's something that comes up and you thought you wanted to say something, you missed something, please make sure you shout or something to get our attention, so. 'Cause
Absolutely.
we want to hear from everybody, right?
Yes, sir. Okay, we'll go to appeals. Appeals speaking time per side is 10 minutes, 3 minutes rebuttal, and 2-minute conclusion. Number 1, Robert Transosco, appealing the zoning commission approval on May 7, 2019, to rezone 28.9 acres west of Highway 59, S25, T7S, R11E from A1 Suburban District to A-4 Single Family Residential District, Ward 4, District 5. Mr. Toledano.
Mr. Reno, thank you very much. Is my
You're
mic in?
on.
Thank you. For purposes of explanation, appeals number 1 and 2 involve the same piece of property, the same applicants, and the same appellants. That's been a continuing effort on several people's part to work through this. That effort is still ongoing. For that reason, I'm going to move to postpone that for a period of 3 months. Both items number 1 and item number 2, if you would consider them in whatever order you choose, Mr. President.
Okay.
Chairman.
We have a motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Tanner. Please vote. To postpone.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 2, Robert Francisco appealing the zoning commission approval on May 7, 2019 to rezone 70.9 acres west of Highway 59 south of Dove Park Road from A-1 Suburban District to A-4 Single Family Residential District PUD Plan Unit Development Overlay and major amendment to PUD Plan Unit Overlay. Ward 4, District 5. I'd assume, Mr. Toledano, you'd like to make a motion to postpone?
For the same reasons. yes.
Same reason. Second by Mr.
For the same period of time, too.
Thank you. Second by Mr. Tanner. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 3, Casey Thon from Bayou Boys Towing appealing the zoning commission denial on January 7, 2020 to rezone 0.5 acres located at southeastern corner of 2nd Avenue and Highway 43, being 3924 2nd Avenue, Slidell, from A-2 to HC-3 Highway Commercial District, Ward 8, District 13. Mr. Airy.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I talked with Mr. Thon, and he and several of the adjacent landowners who are overwhelmingly in opposition to this, but Mr. Thon did indicate that he wanted to seek legal advice, legal counsel. He's been doing this by himself, so I felt that only fair to give him 30 days to be able to do that. I don't necessarily think it's going to matter, but I did tell him that I would do that, so I would move to postpone. But I do note that there are a number of people that put cards in to speak. I don't have a problem if they want to come speak, and then we can postpone it or whatever the chair's pleasure is, so maybe they don't have to come back if this comes back.
Well, when people come and put a card in, I'd like them to at least be able to come up and speak if they so choose. So you have a motion to postpone. Is there a second? Second by Ms. O'Brien. So before we vote, Ms. Krieger?
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Director Liner, and members of the staff. I'm here to oppose this appeal, and we came up tonight, so I appreciate you letting us say a few words. We just learned of this with Mr. Airy, but he did try to reach me before the meeting. I am very opposed to this. I own property that is just right down Highway 433. It's been in my family since 1912, and we went before the zoning commission and we expressed some of our reasons for denying this. After Katrina, many of us were devastated, and we cleared the property ourselves, we rebuilt our properties, and we have worked very diligently to restore this property to a beautiful residential area. And we have had another incident where there's a company there that had a mechanic shop, let's just say, and a lot of junk cars, and that was mentioned at the appeal hearing as well. And we just don't want this property changed in zoning to commercial highway because we are all working to beautify the area and make it a nice place to live. And so we have a couple other people here. I think this will set a precedent, and then other people will try to come and have their zoning changed, as you well know. And we were very appreciative that the zoning board voted in our favor to deny his appeal. And I hope that this council will uphold that denial. But there are a couple other people here who would like to speak as well.
Thank you.
Would anyone have a question for me?
We'll go ahead and go to them, and then we'll come back if there's anything. Ms. Stephanie? You don't want to? Okay. Richard Slider?
How y'all doing tonight?
Yes, sir. Please state your name and your address for us.
Richard Seidler, 55268 Pine Street.
Thank you.
I have this petition here that I typed up, and I went around the neighborhood in the rain, mind you, and I got every person in the neighborhood to sign this. Everybody in the neighborhood's against it, including people on 433, which I don't know if, which one of you guys were here last time. He said he had spoke to that resident, and they were fine with it, and when I spoke to her, she had no idea what I was talking about, so she also signed it. I don't feel like this is gonna do any good to our neighborhood. It's building back very slowly, it's in a flood zone. We have lots back there that we're having trouble selling as it is. If you put a car lot there, I just feel like it's gonna stop. But we'll never be able to get that neighborhood back to where it was. So, I'm just,
Hold on to that petition and bring it back up.
all right, sure will, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duran?
Don Durkin.
Yes, sir.
I live at 55347 Highway 433. I'm generally opposed to having this tow lot on 433. I've spoken to my neighbors on both sides, and going from the residential lots going north 900 feet, every residential property owner is specifically told me they're against it. Going left, I own one of the lots, and my neighbor, Robert Garrett, owns one of the lots, and they're opposed to it. I understand the gentleman wants to do something nice there, but 100% of the people I've talked to in the immediate area on 433, I don't think they're going to be persuaded to change their minds. They're just generally opposed to having the tow lot on 433. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, right, you can stop. Okay, I appreciate y'all taking the time to speak, but please remember, if we postpone it, it will come up at the next meeting, and you're more than welcome to come again and, have your discussion again, okay? Or I'm sure Mr. Airy will let you all know what's going on, and you can go from there, but this one. What? Well, that's fine, that's fine. Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and vote, please. Thank you. I love it.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All righty, thank you. We'll go to ordinance for adoption. Ordinance calendar number 6292, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 0.75 acres from A-2 to A-2 in MHO, Ward 7, District 7. Mr. Davis? Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 2, ordinance calendar number 6304, ordinance to extend the 6-month moratorium on property within a portion of unincorporated town of Alton subdivision, Ward 9, District 14. Mr. T.J. Smith? Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Bender. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 3, ordinance calendar number 6305, ordinance to extend, 6-month moratorium on property within a defined area within Township 8 South, Range 14 East, Section 13, St. Tammany Parish, District 14. Mr. Smith? Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Airy. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 4, ordinance calendar number 6306, ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinance to enter the previously adopted precinct boundary legal description within St. Tammany Parish into said code. Motion by Mr. Canulette, second by Mr. Toledano. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 5, ordinance calendar number 6307, ordinance to amend the parish code, purchasing procedures. Mr. Stefanski.
Chairman, I'd asked to work on this with with Mr. Hand, and we reviewed that procedure, and we made a couple changes to it. This is one that I had made the parish president aware of a couple months ago, and I don't think he got to it until close to this meeting, and he asked that we postpone it, so I moved to postpone.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Stefanski, second by Mr. Canulette. Mr. Tanner, did you want to? Okay. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 6, ordinance calendar number 6308, ordinance establishing the Hudson Street as a dead end, Ward 8, District 12. Mr. Bender. Motion by Mr. Bender, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 6309, ordinance to dissolve the Gravity Drainage District number 5. Mr. Toledano.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Ms. Casavon. Please vote. Yes, sir.
Get something that says that they owe some bills?
I'm sorry.
Has that been rectified?
I didn't hear the question.
Say your question again. I didn't hear.
Well, I mean, this past week, I understand we got some notice in that they owed some money on, I don't know, they had some assets, and then they owed some money on something. Did we follow that up, or anybody follow that up? I don't know. I'm just trying to ask what's going on.
Hold on. Right.
I'm not aware that they owe anything. Are you, Leslie? No.
And I might say one thing, but I don't know how to get this in
No,
operation.
go ahead. Go ahead.
You're my
Okay.
friend.
Mr. Han and I discussed this, Steve. What we also have is some sub-drainage districts, and from what I'm told, Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, the dissolution of this particular district does not, by operation of law, dissolve the sub-drainage districts. So they will stay in effect, and Leslie had already addressed the asset issue, what I think Colin had spoken to. Is that correct, Leslie? Yeah.
I'm not aware of any funds owed by the.
Okay, and I understand now that the sub-districts don't.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's correct.
Mr. Han and I looked at that question specifically.
Okay. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 8, ordinance calendar number 6310, ordinance to amend the parish code, use of fill materials and drainage and paving plan. Mr. Toledano.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 9, ordinance calendar 6311, ordinance to amend the Parish Code of Ordinance, Drainage and Paving Plan. Mr. Canulet.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Canulet, second by Mr. Mike Smith. Please vote.
So while we're voting, I want to thank Carlin and everybody for the help in getting rid of this drainage district. They built out, they did really well, so thank you, everybody.
Number 10, ordinance, oh, I'm sorry. I hit it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 10, ordinance calendar number 6312, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 0.11 acres from A-4 to A-4A in MHO, Ward 8, District 12. Mr. Bender.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bender, second by Mr. Smith. T.J. Smith, please vote.
Motion is unanimous,
I wish I could.
no one absent.
Number 11, ordinance calendar number 6313, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 7.1 acres from CB-1 to PF-2, Ward 1, District 1. Mr. Dean. Motion by Mr. Dean, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 12, ordinance calendar number 6314, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 6.96 acres from A-1 to A-2, Ward 1, District 3. Ms. Casabon. Motion by Ms. Casabon, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
13, ordinance calendar number 6315, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 58.910 acres from A-5 to A-4A, Ward 8, District 9. Mr. Mike Smith. Motion by Mr. Smith, Mike Smith, second by Mr. Canulet. Please vote.
Ms. Casabon, Mr. Tanner? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 14, ordinance calendar number 6316, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.04 acres from A-1 and RO to MD-2 and RO, Ward 2, District 3. Ms. Casabon. Motion by Mr. Casabon, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
15, ordinance calendar number 6317, ordinance to authorize the parish president to acquire certain parcels, right-of-ways, and/or servitudes for the LA 1077 to LA 21 Connector Road. Motion by Mr. Dean. Motion by Mr. Dean, second by Mr. Davis. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 16, ordinance calendar number 6318, ordinance to amend the 2020 operating budget amendment number 3. Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Canulet. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
17, ordinance calendar number 6319, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 58.910 acres from A-5 to PUD, Ward 8, District 9. Mr. Mike Smith. Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Canulet. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 18, ordinance calendar number 6320, ordinance to amend the parish code regarding parish gravity districts, District Number 5. Mr. Toledano.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Airy. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Seeing no other business, motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Ms. O'Brien to adjourn. Thank you. I know. She's scared.